So people say, well, what do I have to hide?
It's not that you have something to hide, it's that it's all about personal privacy. And you have to realize that those who have information about you, they can use that information to hurt you. They can use that information. It's not just to so-called discriminate against you based upon what your political beliefs are. It's also the fact that they can end up becoming, like, for example, cyber criminals, social engineering. It's all these things that the more data you're putting out there, the less control you have over your life. And so, for example, insurance companies, Facebook wanted to end up doing some type of association with a handful of insurance companies, so that way they could basically charge young teens higher prices. And Google scanning student emails for not just advertising, but other digital dossier and commercial purposes. So the companies, they want to take your information and they want to use it against you. The more data out there about you, the less control you have over your life and the less ability you have as far as being a democratic nation when you have a handful of companies that have all this power, because literally data is the new gold out there.
Riding shotgun with us for the rest of the hour and taking your phone calls is Brad Shearer. He is a lawyer, consultant who focuses on digital privacy, security, and free speech issues. I'm not going to go over his whole background, ShearerLaw.com, digitalarmorgroup.com, but I've read his articles. He's a smart guy dealing with the rollout of the surveillance state against Democrats' political enemies and the farming of that out to big media. I mean, we've got underground video that Veritas shot years ago, and then last year and this year, of New York Times, YouTube employees, high-level vice presidents saying, oh, we surveil everybody. We hand out the info to other people. They're in our business. That's why they're on such a power trip. When this house of cards comes down, it's over. I'm not defending Facebook, but why do you think they're the only one called out so far?
Well, because Facebook is the biggest, they're the biggest boy on the block. And also, I mean, take a look at Twitter. I mean, the bottom line, the problem with Facebook is that there was some articles that came out recently that they were actually allowing other people to read your private messages. And this is absolutely troubling. And so, I mean, that's why people really need to understand how to protect their information from these companies, because these companies, they're taking your personal data and they're giving it to whomever they feel like giving it to. And they're also selling it to large companies that are being used, and it's being used to discriminate against you. And that is just so troubling. And that's something that hopefully that I think it's something that the president will end up stopping. And for example, earlier today, it came out that they're charging Facebook with violating the Fair Housing Act because of data discrimination. So this is a huge problem. And it's not just censorship, it's also data discrimination along with censorship. And these things are becoming a much bigger problem. So hopefully the current administration will do something about it to stop these terrible, very troubling discriminatory practices. Let's say someone has shown some proclivity towards liking a certain type of political page, or they're conservative, or there's someone who likes conservative causes, and advertisers know about this. It's highly possible, and the fact that people can be charged higher rates because of the fact that they're visiting conservative websites, or they like a conservative person online. And me personally, when I've actually had some situations where I have actually gone to, for example, Staples. This happened where I used a VPN, and when using a VPN, I was able to hide my location and hide my personal information. I was able to obtain things for a lot cheaper price than if I didn't use a VPN. So it's really a matter of making sure that you basically, it's not just clearing your cookies, but it's also doing other things such as trying to hide your personal information, because these companies will use this data to charge you higher prices. There's a handful of articles out there on the internet that they've done investigative reports on these troubling things. So
let's be clear. Let's be clear. The average leftist is all behind big tech, censorship, surveillance now because they know it's giving them power. But that's a small piece of the puzzle. Doesn't matter whether you're white, black, old, young, liberal, conservative. You're getting ripped off. You're getting gamed. You're getting spied on. So people say, well, what do I have to hide?
It's not that you have something to hide. It's that it's all about personal privacy. And you have to realize that those who have information about you, they can use that information to hurt you. They can use that information. It's not just to so-called discriminate against you based upon what your political beliefs are. It's also the fact that they can end up becoming, like, for example, cyber criminals, social engineering. It's all these things that the more data you're putting out there, the less control you have over your life. And so, for example, insurance companies, Facebook wanted to end up doing some type of association with a handful of insurance companies, so that way they could basically charge young teens higher prices. And Google scanning student emails for not just advertising, but other digital dossier and commercial purposes. So the companies, they want to take your information and they want to use it against you. The more data out there about you, the less control you have over your life and the less ability you have as far as being a democratic nation when you have a handful of companies that have all this power, because literally data is the new gold out there. It's a very troubling situation, because my biggest issue with a lot of this stuff is that there's a lot of people out there that are taking your personal information. And so, for example, let's say you liked a certain person online and you're a teen. Well, then you're going into a college interview, and if someone has Googled you and they've taken a look, they figured out what your Instagram account is, or your Twitter account, or your Snapchat account, then they're taking that information, they're making pure judgments. They're saying, okay, you know what? This person has liked someone who's conservative, or they're following someone who's conservative. Therefore, we're not going to give that person an opportunity to attend this college.
We see that now, all these lawsuits where colleges are saying, you visited a conservative or you like something, you're banned. I mean, that is real terror.
Exactly. And for example, Harvard even has in their interview handbook, for their alumni interview handbook, they want to know exactly what websites you're visiting and which blogs you're visiting. And from that information, you could tell a lot about someone. You can tell about their personal health issues. You can tell about not only their politics, their sexual orientation, their religion. These are some very private and personal bits of data.
Most Christians or conservatives or libertarians or nationalists are busy just working all day. And we just let the leftists run around bullying and running society. That's coming to an end. So get into that and what you've been able to do, Brad Scheer, and where you see this going and what you think Trump should do.
Sure. I think that Trump should definitely try to do whatever he can to level the playing field. As far as I have a big problem with various platforms saying, you know what, we're going to deplatform somebody or ban somebody just because we don't like what they have to say. I mean, I'm a big fan of letting the marketplace of ideas determine what someone has to say. And all the laws that I've advocated for, it's basically the data privacy, social media privacy, and free speech. Because without privacy, you can't have free speech. And also with kids, and one of the biggest issues, you have a lot of these large companies, mainly Facebook and Google. What they're doing is they're literally creating these digital dossiers in our schools of our kids, and that information is then being used to as far as in the guidance counselor area with different programs, to then take that information, and it's being used by colleges. And that's very unfair because of the fact that the types of things that kids are doing while they're growing up, it should not be in any way, shape, or form count against them. Because when kids say stupid things, that's just the nature of the beast. And as a parent of a couple of kids, I think what they do when they're young should never have any it should not be held against them. I've seen, like, for example, in my school district, the amount of data that these companies are collecting, it's unfettered data access, and this information is actually being utilized against our kids. Like, for example, several years back when Google got in trouble for literally scanning the student emails in our kids' schools, and no one held them accountable. So my hope is that the current administration and the Department of Education end up starting to hold these tech companies totally accountable for these illegal activities of collecting all this data on our kids.
And by the way, you could just be a teacher and then leak it to a member of the media that's good, and then bring down the whole thing. We have to say no. And you're right, big tech has been treated like they're God.
Exactly. I agree with you 100%. And that's the big problem here, is the fact that for a long time, big tech got a free pass. And under the previous administration, there was a lot of issues where, well, who were the biggest donators to Obama's campaign, and who actually ended up coming to visit the White House more than anyone else? And that was Google's lobbyists. And Facebook was up there too. So I mean,
and let's not forget the Chi-Coms with all their hidden microchips inside the chips. I mean, this is just crazy, absolutely crazy.
The thing is, as far as the data privacy issue goes, with the issue along with, for example, the smart televisions, very troubling what's going on with there. Whether it's a Samsung or Vizio. Vizio actually got in trouble several years back with the FTC. And as someone, I have a couple of Samsungs, and you have to literally go inside the settings to turn all this stuff off. And then you also had a couple weeks back, what was in the news, where Google, it turned out, they put hidden cameras inside a lot of their Nest devices without telling anybody. And so
they're literally the fox or the wolf in the hen house. Just a few months ago, I got in the face of Sundar, the head of Google, and I said, buddy, you're working with the Chi-Coms, you're selling the country out. Now the Joint Chiefs of Staff Chairman, the Secretary of Defense, and Trump have gotten in his face. This is called leadership. Google is evil. 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 Google is siding with the communist Chinese against America. No. Google's helping oppress Chinese dissidents, Christians and Buddhists. Google is evil. ShearerLaw.com, he's gotten involved. He's gone to state houses and gotten a bunch of laws passed saying public education, higher education, public colleges, they can't demand your whole social media background as if you're guilty until proven innocent. He's taking action. That's what it's all about. Brad, you're an expert on this as a lawyer and somebody that tracks this with your company, digitalarmorgroup.com. What's your take on just how crazy these back doors are?
It's terrible. And besides Grindr, which came out yesterday, I think they should start thinking about looking into TikTok, because TikTok bought out Musical.ly, and who owns TikTok? A Chinese company. And a lot of young kids use TikTok. And that's an app where you basically put on short music videos, but the type of information that's being collected is very troublesome. And there's been a lot of people in the security apparatus. They think that China was the one behind the OPM data hack or breach, and also maybe they might have been involved with the Marriott data breach or hack. And so the problem is that when you have these nation states, especially China and Russia, maybe North Korea or whatever, taking down these different companies and going into the back doors and obtaining this information, you can start to get a bigger picture of where our people are going and what's being done with this information. For example, it allows them to build
a giant data map that interfaces with other maps they've got that the general public doesn't understand. Go ahead.
Exactly. I couldn't agree with you more. For example, it was in the news, I think it was maybe 6 months or so ago, with Strava. They're a fitness app, and how they had a map of all the people that were using Strava around the world. And what you could see was that there were a lot of secret U.S. bases where where U.S. servicemen and women, they were using the app, and you could actually track where their secret bases were all over the world. And this put our men and women who fight for us and protect our country.
And basically lased all the targets.
Exactly. It basically showed the entire world where our secret operations are and how many people that we have.
Yeah, nobody in the military should be allowed to have cell phones. People should go back to landlines. They should go back to flip phones. The damn things are a nightmare. They're very useful, but they are a nightmare. I want to have you back again soon, Brad. Really impressed with the great work and just how you got state laws passed. So please join us again soon. And come on with David Knight, weekday mornings, 8 a.m. to 11. Please come on with Owen Schroyer with the War Room, 3 p.m. Central every day. Thank you so much.
Hey, thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Thank you. And now, through the end of March, we are running the biggest special of this year. So far, it matches any other special we've ever done. So this is the best deal we've ever offered. Free shipping store-wide. That's free shipping store-wide. Free shipping store-wide. 50% off all the supplements. A bunch of other great deals as well. Double Patriot points. Instead of 5% on each order towards your next order, you get 10% right there in your profile. Sign up for auto ship, cancel anytime for free, get an additional 10% off on your next order. That's 20% off. You add that to 50% off and store-wide free shipping. Most of these products are loss leaders. So I want to thank you all for supporting the InfoWar. I want to encourage you today to get great products in the 360 Win at InfoWarsStore.com. Voting with our feet, voting with our dollars, voting with our mouths, voting with our speech, voting with our action. Free shipping store-wide. That's free shipping store-wide. Free shipping store-wide at InfoWarsStore.com.